Yo, so just got back from the game and wet and cold, like you, if you went to the game, were wet and cold, but we didn't care, did we? Because it was a great result and it was a fantastic game of football. It's exactly the game of football that you go to Fratton Park to see, isn't it? Ending as it did in the dark and the incessant drizzle, halfway between drizzle and pouring rain and a wind, and it was freezing cold. And we didn't care because we'd scored 3 goals, 2 of which were absolute match of the day, credit sequence, quality. I'm talking about the Swanson goal, of course, and then Williams goes and betters it, I think. The general consensus in the bar that I was in was that Williams' goal was even better than Swanson's, and Swanson's had been up to that point the goal of the season, really. And for Seggs to get a goal as well, OK, it took a pretty big deflection, but it's his. It was his goal. And he made sure that we knew it was his goal because that knee slide celebration was him saying, I've scored, and you can't take that away from me, so don't even try. The game had the lot. It was very sad that they had a player stretchered off after Bianchini tried to smash a cross in, and the player was closing him down and was no more than 6 feet away from the ball, which was hit good and hard. And it was a cold day, and that doesn't help. It was a concussion injury. The player was stretchered off worryingly towards where we know and we understand an ambulance lurks during the game in case of an eventuality such as happened. So we wish him well. He was on his way to hospital by the looks of it, in that hard stretcher that they use nowadays, have done for quite some time. So it had that. And it was a concussion substitution, and I didn't know exactly what that meant, I'm afraid. Maybe you did. You do. But it was explained to everybody around where I was sitting by a very nice man called Rich Hughes, I believe, who explained that if a side has a concussion injury, they are permitted to bring a substitute on, but it doesn't count as one of their 5 substitutes. But not only that, he said, they will then therefore effectively have 6 substitutes on the pitch if they use all their substitutes, and we, the opposition, are therefore allowed an extra substitution. So we could have brought on 6 players because of the concussion substitution that they had to put up with. There was a red card. We'll come to that later. It was an exhilarating moment. It was a heart-stopping moment because the victim of the foul was, of course, Lang, and we didn't like seeing him on the ground. But it was an impact injury, which is different from a hamstring, which tends to be something that is simply stretched and strained. So there was a worrying 90 seconds until he got to his feet and limped off. But the general outcome of all the incidents in the game worked for us. So I propose nobody dwells on the fact that we conceded a goal and it was a set piece. So let's not go there, because we didn't need to be worried about that, because we scored 3 cracking goals. And we played really well. Pompey played really well. Started off slowly, I thought. Don't know about you. I thought they were a little bit tentative. They were playing a little bit like a side that wasn't entirely sure if they deservedly were in a relegation battle. Didn't end like that, did it? Millwall are solid. They're playoff candidates. They're a solid side. They've had a good season so far. Haven't won in their last 3 games, I think it is, or 4, counting us. But they're a solid outfit. They always finish in a solid position in the Championship, and we were better than them. Now, I know they've got their injury problems. It's been well documented. The manager has been making a song and dance about it. But I don't think their injury problems are any worse than ours. And they played a lot worse than we did. Well, we didn't play bad at all. There were occasions when we started after about 10 minutes to put together some good moves. Not just passing the ball around, the back 4 and the midfield, or not aimlessly, but, not quite knowing how to make any penetration, we suddenly started to make some penetration. We suddenly started to look threatening, to get ourselves in positions where the ball would come into their penalty area. And where is Colby? Oh, poor guy was so often in the right place, but not for the ball that came in. Or, forgive me, I've been shouting. Or for the other way round. He wasn't quite in the right place, but the ball was put in the right place. And I felt that towards the end of the game, some of the team were starting to try and set him up. Because with them down to 9 men and them down 2 goals down with 10 minutes to go, whatever it was, it was really on that they might be able to serve up for Colby the goal that they know is going to make such a difference to his game, and he's going to be scoring a goal every 1 3/4 games, which is, what he does and what he can do. So all these things were going on, and they all made for a memorable afternoon. Just going to have a sip of something. Bear with me. Oh, yes. So, Schmidt in goal reminded us that we hadn't really been missing him that much, but he did bring an extra 5%, didn't he? The saves that he had to make were consummate. 1 or 2 of them were slightly heart-stopping efforts, but didn't seem to trouble him at all. And his distribution, apart from a couple of occasions when he was hurried, was once again immaculate. I said to the bloke sitting next to me at one point during the second half, this is the first time I think I've ever seen Schmidt kick the ball from his hands. Because what he likes to do is get it down on the turf so that he has that extra degree of control about where it's going, and he hits it long and flat, and he could put it into a dustbin from 50 yards. So it was good to see him playing in that way, being a proper goalkeeper, but also being an excellent fifth defender and almost something of a long-distance schemer. Tell you who had a fantastic game at the back. We always expect it of Regan Poole, but didn't you think Knight was an absolute rock? He was winning so many aerial duels, sometimes against 1 or 2 Millwall players who had a bit of beef about them themselves. Didn't bother him. Knight was an absolute stalwart on the day. Koznevsky as man of the match. What did you think? We were slightly surprised because obviously whoever chose the man of the match award for him was noticing things that you didn't actually notice if you were a ball watcher. I suspect that although he had what appeared to be something of an anonymous game, he was actually very influential. He was in the right place at the right time. He was doing the right covering. He was covering the right opponent. He was creating opportunities for people to pass to him if that was necessary, and then he would get rid of it quite quickly. Freddie Potts used to do that. He never took more than 2 touches. You passed the ball to Freddie Potts, and he would take a touch, and then on it would go. So nobody could get near him. And the pass that he made was always the right one. So he was thinking all the time, if the ball comes to me now, well, who would I pass it to? Have a quick look. Before the ball's even passed to him, have a quick look. I could go there, I could go there, I could go there. So when the ball comes to you, you don't need to look up. You make your touch and you pass. You make your pass. Perhaps Koznevsky was playing in very much a similar way to that. Or maybe he's being coached to play in a similar way to that. But man of the match, that will do his confidence an awful lot of good. Colby Bishop at the moment can't buy a goal, but he won almost everything that was pumped up to him, either by the back four or by the keeper, our keeper. He won almost everything in the air. And it was interesting to watch the way in which he did it, because he was very physical with whoever was trying to out-jump him or out-tackle him or whatever. Colby gets his retribution in, not retribution, he gets his revenge in first. So he doesn't wait to be fouled. He starts the negotiation, let's put it like that, and comes out on top time and time and time again. And that is so valuable to any side to have a number 9, and he's not the biggest number 9 in the world by a long stretch of the imagination, is he? But he gets the job done. He gets himself in the way of the ball. He gets the touch. And when he flicks it on, it is in the direction of a colleague. So he knows where people are. Here comes the ball. He has a little look around him. Here comes the ball. It's dropping down. It's got ice on it. And there's my opponent. I'm going to push him. I'm going to shove him. I'm going to knock into him. I'm going to annoy him enormously. I'm going to stop him jumping. And he does all those things. And did he run? Did he chase down everything? Or did he chase down everything with brass knobs on? He was indefatigable. But talking about indefatigable, wow. Adrian Segecic. He just doesn't stop, does he? I don't think I've ever seen on a Fratton Park pitch anybody playing either in the blue shirt or for the other team who was quite so earnest and determined and just gave his all and then plenty more in chasing down the ball. And it doesn't sound like much compared to scoring a fantastic goal. He got a goal. It wasn't a fantastic goal, but it was his goal and nobody can take it away from him. And I think he's is he our top scorer now as of this moment? And he had a fantastic game. And it was good that he was substituted off, giving the crowd an opportunity and to applaud him as an individual, not as a team. At the end of the game, the team gets a round of applause, especially if they win 3-1. Segecic managed to secure himself his own huge round of applause. And everyone around me got to their feet and clapped him off. And he knew that and he felt it. And that will do him plenty of good. So, yeah, great game he had. There were occasions when he was starting to use his physique, which he says can be an advantage because he's not the biggest man on the pitch, but he can use it to his advantage, and he's starting to learn how to do that in the Championship. And that augurs so well for us, doesn't it? Because he's a player. I might miss one or two people out in my little resume. I hope what I'm saying approximates to how you saw the game if you were there. If not, perhaps you've seen the highlights or maybe the whole game. It will be available shortly as a video to watch, and you'll pretty much concur with the way that we saw it. And it wasn't just me, it was all the people around me all felt the same, really. And we went for a beer afterwards at Fratton Park. We stayed at the ground, and the general consensus was it was one of the most enjoyable days watching football that we could remember, period. Not just for a long time, but period. It really had the lot. The foul on Lang that caused the fella to be sent off, I jumped to my feet straight away and waved an invisible red card, because to me it was an obvious red card, and a red card it was. We were just too good for them down our right. The ball down the line, I can't remember who played it, could have been Swanson, but the ball down the right touchline that Lang got to first was absolutely superb. It was incisive. It was dead right, spot on the money. And Lang got his toe to it first and would have gone sailing past the guy, but the guy left enough of him there for Lang to go down. A heart-stopping moment because he's just back from injury and we need him. We value him so much. I'm not going to say need him because we're not dependent on anybody. Not even, Josh Murphy had a good game today, but he didn't actually pull up any trees. Quite. He couldn't get round his fullback and get his trademark cross in today. But he was a live wire and he did a lot of good covering as well. So a good performance all round. Marlon Pack came on and reminded us that he's Marlon Pack and he can still dominate the football pitch even if he's nowhere near the ball. The opposition, starts to become aware that there's a bloke on there who can look after himself and he's a good footballer, and you don't want to be too near him. So that worked. The substitutions all worked. The team selection surprised an awful lot of people, but John Messino had prepared us for that by saying that what the club needs at this moment in time is a shake-up. And he shook up, didn't he? What a good move it was to replace Swanson in the starting 11, replace Williams, I should say, with Swanson in the starting 11, because that piece of selection delivered us our first goal. And what a goal it was. What a strike. He's done it before for us, so we know he can do it. So he got his goal, and that put us in front, and that really set the seal on a good 5-10 minutes of attacking football by Pompey. Then we had the goal to score, to show for it. And one of the problems that we've had is on occasions when we've been the better team, we haven't got the goal to show for it. But against Millwall, we got the goal to show for it, and we got the goal because John Messino picked Swanson ahead of Williams. And then what did he do? He brought Swanson off and he put Williams on. And Williams was sufficiently G'd up by what Swanson had done that he not only defended as well as Swanson, he scored a better goal. It was. Oh, sorry, I get excited. Have another quick sip. Nearly done. Seriously, what a goal was that? We discussed it afterwards in the bar. Whose was the best goal? And we agreed. Williams just shaded it. And yet Swanson's was so good as well. So, an exhilarating game. Everyone went home more than happy, delirious. The fish and chips just taste so much better when you've been to see a game of football in which your team behaves like that. And the rain came down and the wind blustered. And we had the floodlights on at the end, and it was dark. You could look at the black sky and you could see sparkling drops of rain falling on the pitch just to remind you that those players were playing through that. 3 Pompey players started the game with gloves. I think one of them took the gloves off at half time. I just happened to notice these things because it was that filthy out there. It really was. And commiserations to Millwall. Their fans behaved, to the best of my knowledge, pretty good. They can be known. They have a reputation, and it seemed to me that they were, well, obviously disappointed by the result. A lot of them left early. I said to the bloke next to me, I don't think they're necessarily all going straight home, but it seems as though they did. The police presence was, I'm going to say, overwhelming. When I arrived at Fratton Station, there were 50 to 100 coppers on the platform. There were more coppers, and plenty of them, and plenty of vans and vehicles outside the station and on the walkway over the station, the other side of the walkway. It was lined with coppers, and then as you went along towards the station, copper, 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 coppers ringing the road where you turn off and head towards the ground itself, and a pile of manure. A pile of horse manure halfway along. And that's going to be one of my abiding images of the day, really, because I realised that they had at least one police horse there. And for some reason, the police, it seems, still believe that the presence of a horse will somehow assuage any young people who are thinking of causing a little bit of trouble, persuade them to go home and lick their wounds, as it was in the case of today's game. They got a bit of a drubbing, Millwall. I was watching their manager from time to time during the game, and he'd run out of ideas because every time he called a player over to give him some advice, he was holding his hands out as if to say, what can we do? What can you do? What do you suggest? What are we doing wrong? It was that sort of a gesture. I don't know what he was actually saying, but it was that sort of a gesture with the palms of the hands up and the shrug of the shoulders. And he couldn't come up with any ideas. And I know they've got their injuries, but so have we. And it was just so much nicer to see John Messino behaving so differently because of the scoreline. So, Pompey 3, Millwall 1. And fingers crossed now that we could be heading into a nice little sequence. Thanks for your time. Talk soon.